Have you ever sat in a room like that? A very ordinary room, a meeting, a classroom, a family dinner. Someone says something obviously wrong, wrong enough that you react almost immediately inside. Then you look around. No one frowns. No one interrupts. No one looks uncomfortable. Everyone nods as if what was said is completely normal, and you freeze. What just happened? It is not that you do not know right from wrong. You know exactly what you just heard. But something inside you has already stopped you. Your mouth does not open. Your throat goes dry. Your heart beats a little harder. You look around one more time. Still, no one says anything. So you stay quiet too. It sounds small, right? Just one moment of silence. Just one time not speaking up. But sometimes, that is the most frightening moment of all. Because what gets swallowed is not only a sentence, it is the most honest part of you. A lot of people believe this. If I know they are wrong, I will speak. If something is absurd enough, I will object. If someone is treated unfairly, I will not stay silent. That sounds true. But real life feels different, because when that moment actually arrives, you are not only facing a bad opinion, you are facing a whole group moving in one direction, and human beings fear that more than they admit. Have you noticed this? Many people can argue one-on-one just fine, but when the whole room leans the same way, they suddenly shrink inside. Why does that happen? Because with one person, you still feel like an equal. But when the group becomes a wall, then the issue stops being truth or logic. It becomes belonging or separation. That is what your brain is really reading. Not simple disagreement, but the risk of being pushed outside the circle. It sounds dramatic, maybe. Just a meeting, not exile. Just a group of friends, not life or death. But the brain is not as refined as we like. It is modern in tools, ancient in fear. It still remembers something very old. Being pushed out once meant danger. It could mean hunger, cold, exposure, and no protection. Today, you are not going to die in that room, but your brain still reads isolation as threat. That is why this reaction is not only mental. It moves through your body first. Dry throat, cold hands, tight chest, slower thoughts. You are not only thinking fear, you are feeling it physically. Fear of what? Fear that every eye will turn toward you. Fear of the silence after you say something different. Fear of looking difficult, dramatic, or disruptive. Fear of becoming the one person not on the same side. Fear that once you speak, the room will quietly move away from you. Do you see it? The crowd does not need to shout to silence you. It only needs to agree strongly enough. Then you do the rest to yourself. And here is the more dangerous part. The crowd does not only make you fear them, it makes you question yourself. This is where it turns dark. At first you think, I know this is wrong. But after a few seconds of looking around, the question begins to change. What if I am the one reading this wrong? What if I am too sensitive? What if I am overreacting? What if this is not as serious as it feels? Do you see that shift? You stop asking, is this right or wrong? You start asking, why am I the only one seeing it this way? That is the moment personal perception starts borrowing confidence from numbers. And once people stop trusting their own perception, they become much more willing to choose safety over honesty. Not because they love dishonesty, but because honesty suddenly becomes expensive. Have you ever laughed at a joke you found cruel? Nodded at an opinion you quietly rejected? Stayed silent while someone was mocked right in front of you? Felt something tighten inside, but kept your face calm anyway? If you have, you are not unusual. A lot of decent people have lived that exact moment. Not because they lack morality, but because morality often loses against a very ordinary fear. The fear of being disliked. The fear of being seen as difficult. The fear of becoming the problem. The fear of losing approval. The fear of losing opportunity. The fear of losing your place. In school, it is the fear of becoming the outsider. At work, it is the fear of making your own life harder. Among friends, it is the fear of ruining the mood. Inside family, it is the fear of becoming the one who always resists. Do you see it now? The social cost of truth can feel painfully clear, and many people stay silent. Not because they do not know. They stay silent because they know too well what speaking might cost them. But the story does not end there. The moment you go quiet does not end when the conversation ends. It follows you home. It stays in your body. It returns in the quiet, when there is no one left to perform for. Because after staying silent, people must do one more thing. They must keep living with their own silence. And in order to keep living, They start telling themselves a softer story. Maybe it was not that serious. Maybe speaking up would not have changed anything. Maybe everyone else had their reasons. Maybe I was being practical, not cowardly. Maybe silence was the mature thing to do. Can you see what is happening here? You are no longer only silent before a group. You begin bending the explanation, so you can still live with yourself. That is when silence changes shape. It becomes self-justification. And self-justification is dangerous because it protects you from immediate shame, but quietly pulls you away from yourself. Because deep down, you know something clearly. I saw what was wrong. I heard what was off. I had a chance to speak, and I let it pass. That feeling does not always show up as guilt. Sometimes it is just heaviness, restlessness, broken sleep, a slight misalignment in the chest. Hard to name, but impossible to ignore. You still go to work, eat dinner, answer messages. You still look normal from the outside. But somewhere inside, something has shifted out of place. This is the most painful part. Every time you stay silent before something you know is wrong, you do not only lose one sentence, you weaken the trust between yourself and your own conscience. The next time something similar happens, you will hesitate faster. Next time, it will be easier to say, let it go. Next time, you will need less reason to turn away. That is how people drift away from themselves. Not quickly, not dramatically, not all at once, just slowly and very reasonably. No one wakes up and decides, today I will become cowardly. Moral erosion rarely begins with one giant collapse. It begins with tiny concessions, a strained smile to smooth things over, a nod just to move on, one thought saying, do not make this bigger. One thought saying, maybe it is not serious. One thought saying, this is not my business. One moment of looking away, and those tiny moments are what create larger tragedies. Bullying does not survive only because of the bully. It survives because too many people nearby stay still. A toxic workplace does not survive because of one bad leader alone. It survives because too many people know and say nothing. A collective lie does not live through the liar alone. It lives through the reluctant agreement around it. Do you see why silence is more dangerous than it looks? Because it makes what is wrong feel ordinary. Because it makes the truthful person feel strange. Because it teaches the whole room that truth is not worth the cost. But the story is not hopeless, because just as silence can spread, so courage can spread too. Have you noticed how important the first voice is? Not because that person is always the strongest, but because they break a very dangerous illusion. The illusion that truth is standing alone. When one person says what you are already thinking, the tightness in your throat loosens a little. Your heartbeat slows. You feel less crazy, less oversensitive, less alone in the room. That is why one honest sentence can change the air completely. Not because it is perfect, not because the speaker is extraordinary, but because it gives trust back to the people who were starting to lose themselves. Maybe courage is not the absence of fear. Maybe courage is seeing that fear of exclusion clearly and still refusing to betray the moral signal inside you. Because sometimes the world does not change. When the strongest person speaks, it changes. When one very ordinary person refuses to stay silent one more time. And maybe the most frightening thing is not that crowds are always wrong. It is that crowds can make the right person begin to leave themselves.